My favorite sleeper running back is blank. Oh, we have a graphic. Thomas, we have a graphic here. Let's put up the sleeper running backs for Dave, Jamie, and Heath. Let's take a look at who they said. But Dave, who's your favorite sleeper running back?
Right now, my favorite sleeper running back is James Robinson. I'm encouraged by the progress that he's making in camp. I don't think he looks like a world beater as far as elusiveness goes, and he's running against air. So, say what you will, but at least he's on the right track. And I have no grandeur visions of him being the feature guy who's getting 20 plus touches a week in Jacksonville, but I do think he'll contribute a good amount, certainly more than what a running back at his ADP currently would suggest. I think he's eventually going to vault up into the mid rounds, and I would be interested in him then. So I sure as hell am interested in him when you're talking round 8 or later.
Yeah, in NFC drafts in the last week, James Robinson is going after pick 120. And
good gravy, that's gold.
Fantasy Pros, he's going in round 9.
Gold gravy.
So would either of you take, because Heath's sleeper is Dameon Pierce, who we just briefly talked about. I'll let you talk more about him, but who would you guys rather have, James Robinson or Dameon Pierce?
Pierce.
Robinson.
All right, Heath, make the case for Pierce.
He's a starting running back who, according to Fantasy Pros, is currently available in round 12. His competition is Rex Burkhead and Marlon Mack. He's got the ability to catch the football. He's going to lead the team in touches.
Okay, and Jamie's sleeper is Nyheim Hines, who's also going pretty late. Hines is going 136th overall. He is RB 44.
When was his big year?
I know that because I just tweeted about that. It was 2020, and it was a pretty big difference. He was RB 39, I think 10 points per game in 2018, and RB 30 on a per game basis with 12 points per game in 2020. He was RB 60 in 2019, but do you know why I know that?
Why?
Because of who his quarterback was in 2019.
Jacoby Brissett, right? Who does not really throw to running backs much. So Nyheim Hines is Jamie's sleeper, and if we like him at 135 or whatever I said he is, 136, when do you think is the right time to take Nyheim Hines?
I've got him in round. I think I like him maybe even a little more than Jamie does. Dave is not on board.
I'm looking at early round 12. In full PPR.
Early round 9 for me.
Okay. Would you take Nyheim Hines or James Cook?
Cook.
Hines right now.
Ooh, wow. Okay. All right, let's talk about breakouts. I keep forgetting though. We'll do it after breakouts. All right, let's talk about our favorite breakouts. Dave, you can start. Who's your favorite breakout this year?
My favorite breakout this year is A.J. Dillon. I don't think he's necessarily the most obvious one, but his floor is still pretty good. I think his floor is going to be around 12 PPR points per week. He's still going to get, I believe, double-digit touches every single game. I think he's a contender for short yardage touches and certainly goal line work in Green Bay. I think he can catch the ball a little bit too. We've made a lot of talk about Aaron Jones being potentially the top pass catcher in Green Bay, and that might be true. But A.J. Dillon could end up being third on the team in catches. I think he's got a great shot, even with Aaron Jones on the field, to be a number 2 fantasy running back. And if Aaron Jones misses time, say he goes to Hawaii or he does a lot of community service work, maybe he wins Powerball. A.J. Dillon would be a number 1 fantasy running back. So he's kind of turned into the new Kareem Hunt. Remember when everybody was totally fine with drafting Kareem Hunt, even though he was playing behind Nick Chubb? I think Dillon is that guy now. And I think this offense, given the wide receiving core, I think it makes sense for them to lean on these running backs a little bit more than they have in the past. There's a reason why Aaron Rodgers isn't a top 10 quarterback for us anymore. I could see A.J. Dillon having a really strong year with upside to be an amazing fantasy running back.
Heath, you're taking J.K. Dobbins as your breakout, and he is expected making good progress. Very good chance, I guess, at this point to be ready for week 1. He's off the PUP list.
Maybe on track for week 1
sure.
is the way to say it. Something can go wrong, and he might be a breakout that starts in week 4. I will accept the fact that maybe week 1 he's not quite 100% himself, but 80% of J.K. Dobbins is better than 80% of the running backs in the NFL. He is an elite talent. Mr. YPC for life. Average he is YPC for life. 6.2 yards per carry in college, 6.0 his rookie year on the Ravens. His final 6 games of his rookie season, he was on pace for 1,400 yards rushing and 20 touchdowns. They spent all last offseason showing us highlight videos of J.K. Dobbins catching the football, and then Lamar Jackson's last year threw the ball to running backs at a higher rate than he ever had. Dobbins is going to have more catches than what you expect, and he's going to be better than Nick Chubb once he's 100%.
I remember getting excited about a player who did well in the last 6 games of his rookie season, but
he was
he was a top 8 running back in those games. He was catching the ball a lot too. Yeah, he was Miles Sanders, of course.
But that was 2 years ago. There's no reason to hold on to it anymore.
Well, I get that. Well, if we're talking about him in round 7 or something, I think it's fine. I'm not taking him in round 5 or round 3. I mean,
and I don't think, did he average 6 yards per carry that year?
No, he definitely did not average 6 yards per carry.
Are we sure that Dobbins is the same running back?
Well, Dr. Chow, who I think is great at this, he's one of those sports doctors. He was the team physician for the Chargers. He's been on our show before. He's
very good at this. You're right.
Very skeptical of J.K. Dobbins' recovery. Although I feel like Dobbins is beating his projection for returning, but I think he feels like Dobbins is going to struggle a little bit. I don't want to misquote him, so I'll try to look it up. But I think we've seen that. We saw that. We read that, right?
I think so.
Heath not throwing caution to the wind.
I'm not throwing caution to the wind. If I was, I'd have him at the 2-3 turn where I think he belongs if he's 100% healthy.
Okay. Find the Pro Football Doc talking about J.K. Dobbins. I got it here. Jamie's breakout, as I read this, is Travis Etienne. Question: can Travis Etienne be great if James Robinson is healthy?
In PPR, he could be, because he could end up having 80 catches. The thing that I worry about with Etienne is how many touchdowns can he score if James Robinson's there? Because he doesn't seem like he seems like an interesting fit when you get to short yardage. Like there's ways you can scheme him up, but he's not the type of back that's going to plow for you from a yard out. That's James Robinson. I bet that's something James Robinson can do right now.
Yeah, I'll just say the same thing that Jamie said when I said Breece Hall as a breakout. I definitely think Travis Etienne's going to have the best year of his career.
Dr. Chow, I don't have it specifically, but I know he's been a little bit of a pump the brakes on Dobbins because it was a pretty serious injury. It was multiple ligaments or multiple issues in the knee. All right, let's talk about busts here, and let's bring up that graphic. Let's see busts for everybody here. Heath, you can start. Who's going to be a bust at running back this year?
Well, I've got a lot of busts, and I've said Najee Harris a lot, so I'm going to say somebody different this time. I'm going to go with Damian Harris. Looking at his Fantasy Pros PPR ADP, it's at the end of round 5. You should not expect him to score touchdowns at the rate he did last year. I expect him to come very close to a 50-50 split in the running game with Ramondre Stevenson, and he's not going to be the running back playing on passing downs. And there's been a lot of reports about how bad this Patriots offense has been because, shocker, they put Matt Patricia in charge of the offense, and he's not an offensive coordinator. So yeah. I think it might all be a disaster in New England.
It actually, the reports started off glowing about this offense, and then they've like changed their running scheme.
Then they started playing against the defense?
Yeah, maybe. But apparently, like, they've tried changing their running scheme, and maybe they're just experimenting, and this is a weird time of the year to do that. But I've read those reports, too. It's a little scary. I wanted to ask you before I gave my answer, Heath, because I don't mind Damian Harris. He's one of those fallback running backs that I wouldn't mind drafting as an early season starter. Where would you take Damian Harris in PPR?
In full PPR, I wouldn't take him until round 8 or 9.
Okay. And I'm taking him at least one round ahead of you. I would take him in round 7.
What do you think the chances are no injuries? Because this is where I struggle. What do you think the chances are that Ramondre Stevenson is better than Damian Harris this year with no injuries?
No, I don't think he will be. Even in full PPR.
Though. It's the Patriots.
With no injuries, I'll put it at like 20%.
Because they were like 45-45 in the split. Yeah.
They were. Go back and see who was more efficient in short yardage and who had more opportunities in short yardage. and that'll tell the tale. I think Stevenson had 5 touchdowns last year, and 4 of them were when Harris was either hurt or it was a blowout, and they didn't put Harris in, and they just let Ramondre do his thing. And if that carries over, that's obviously going to hurt Ramondre's opportunities to score. We need Ramondre Stevenson to be the passing downs guy, for him to be I still think he's worth his ADP a little. If his ADP is right around 90th, he's still worth it there, even if he doesn't take over the James White role. But
so you're taking Stevenson where I'm taking Harris.
Stevenson's ADP is 113th.
Okay.
In PPR.
Even if he's not the next James White, I don't mind taking Ramondre Stevenson there because it's a bet against Damian Harris, and he is going to get work each week. Harris is not going to be the feature back unless he's in a game and he just has a hot hand. Then he will be. We're never going to know that going in, and just because he has it one week doesn't mean he's going to be that way the next week. But a lot of people love Ramondre. Jamie's one of those people. I don't mind Ramondre Stevenson, but if you're taking him before 90th overall, you're that crazy about him, you better hope that he's catching 40 passes this year, and you better hope that Damian Harris struggles in short yardage situations to open the door for Stevenson.
Why are we talking about Ramondre Stevenson as the passing downs back? How realistic do you think that is? First of all, James White might not be ready for the start of the season, but I don't think he's going to miss the whole season. And when he comes back, that's going to be his role. And Pierre Strong might be the third down back. I
think Ty Montgomery is currently the third
I think
down
Ty Montgomery's ahead of Strong.
Right. So how on earth could either Harris or Stevenson be consistent enough in that role? I mean, it's not going to be Harris. And I think there were 2 games last year where Ramondre Stevenson had, a decent amount of catches. That's off the top of my head. But obviously he didn't catch the ball much. So I don't really get that. You're not the first person to say it. I just don't know where it's coming from that Ramondre Stevenson would be the third down.
I think it's because he had 18 catches in 6 games at Oklahoma as part of it. Like, he has the ability to do it.
Part of it's the profile.
He's a big bruiser. I mean, he doesn't look like that kind of guy to me, but I don't know.
Saying big guys can't catch?
I'm not drafting any of the Patriots running backs.
You don't see big guys like that in the passing game that often as the third down back. It just feels like that's not really going to happen. And they had exactly in their last 5 games that they played together where neither left with an injury. Harris and Stevenson had basically the same amount of carries, 50 for Harris, 52 for Stevenson.
That's the thing is, like, if it's full PPR and you're splitting carries and you're not catching passes, then why do I want you on my team?
Because you're going to score a lot of touchdowns. That's what Harris offers. You have double-digit touchdown potential.
Dave, you've been calling Cam Akers a bust for a long, long time now. Mm-hmm. So you say I'm in the 70s?
I'm 70th.
Okay.
Which means I'm not taking him. It's basically my way of suggesting that you just don't even bother taking Cam Akers.
Heath, do you agree with that?
No. I've gone back and forth on Akers. I've never had him that low. I'm somewhere around 60, and then I'm around 45, and then I'm around 60, depending on. I don't totally believe what Sean McVay said because of what Sean McVay has done. And I think Akers has a lot more upside than somebody like Damian Harris.
Okay, and Jamie's bust is Antonio Gibson. So his ADP is pretty interesting. I don't think anyone's taking him where he's going, which is 40th overall. But if he starts to fall to
I've got him around
overall,
40th.
You do?
Yeah.
I didn't know you were a Gibson guy because
I didn't know I was either until now, but
since August 1st on NFC, Antonio Gibson's average draft position is 64th. He is behind AJ Dillon. So go ahead, Heath. Why is he worth a 4th round pick?
Well, I mean, he's been a borderline number 1 running back each of the last 2 years.
Yeah. Okay, that works for me.
He's finished
even on a per game
19th.
basis, he was a mid-range number 2.
Right.
And we're drafting 25 running backs in the first 4 rounds. He should probably be one of them.